everyone. It's Angela Stevens with the podcast Refocus with Angela. And I have to tell you, I interview so many people on this podcast, and I just love this woman. You're going to have such a great time meeting this person. But today we have Dr. Michele Borba. She's the best-selling author of Thrivers. It's the surprising reasons why some kids struggle and others shine. She is a child expert. She is a educational psychologist. She is internationally known. She's an award-winning author, a parent-child expert. I could go on and on and on. But one thing I have to say is I was reading her background and I noticed that she has visited 91 countries. So I just have to say, wow. And she's spoken in 28 countries and 5 continents and served as a consultant to hundreds of schools and corporations. I could go on and on and on, but her background is amazing. So please will help me welcome Dr. Michele Borba. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, Angela, thank you. You're going to be my new PR firm. Thank you.
You're so welcome. So first of all, we were just talking about our company, Refocus the Creative Office, but I wanted to talk to you about just a little bit about you. So this is all about focusing. So every day, we can't be perfect. Well, you and I can't. I'm
No.
joking. No, but every day, when you have, those days, on an ongoing basis, and you're not focused on some days, what is your routine? What works for you? Is it the night before? Is it the morning? What gets you going for that day?
Oh, well, first of all, a moleskin. I am just a note taker. And what I do the night before is figure out if I have 50,000 things I have to do the night before, I level it down to here's the 5 most important things.
Yep.
Everything's in a time frame of what I'm supposed to do. And then when I wake up, I'm ready to go. The only thing I need at that point is coffee. And I've set earphones really do help me to kind of block out the rest of the world. And
Yeah.
I stay in a routine of the same place, the same time with the same desk. That seems to really help.
That's so true. One of the things I just did a podcast the other day, or a webinar actually for a company. And one of the pieces of advice I gave to them is I said, make that list before the night before, right? But I said, on that list, put it by your door of your bedroom, not the door that you go out the house, but of your bedroom, because as you're getting ready, it kind of
Yeah.
wakens you up a little bit, so that's great. And you're right on with what I do. So let me ask you this for anybody that's got kids. And let's say that they got kids that are running around in the morning. Okay. And you're a child expert, right? So we got to ask these questions. But if let's say they have 3 or 4 kids and it's kind of tough. I've been there, you've been there. What is your advice to create that calm for them, either the night before or the morning, if there is such a thing?
Well, number one, with children, routines are really helpful.
Mhm.
Sticking to the routine. Number two is if I'm calm, they're calm, making sure that everything else seems to be at a calmer mode. And then realizing that I've written 28 books. And I will tell you that as I'm writing them, I used to have one kid that was next to me I bounce it up and down in a bassinet trying to get things done. It was with a mobile hanging from my desktop. You do
Right.
what you do in order to get things done, but you always figure out what your child needs. And then, of course, when there's a nap time, take advantage of it. When
Right.
there's
Mhm.
when they're in
Exactly.
the roll time or on a play date, take advantage of it. So you find where the little nuggets of time are for you, and you weave those in. And once again, I note take the night before. So when I'm writing a book, I know where I'm going to be and what I'm going to do so I can zero in on it.
I love it. So one thing that I haven't asked some of our guests, and I wanted to ask you, is we talk about sometimes the mom, right? The mom is
Mhm.
the one that does everything. But what if they have, a spouse or a partner that what is their role? How can they help in making that child's life better on a consistent basis on a day to day? And that could be, it could be a partner, it could be a husband, but that the person that's living with those children, what can they do?
The most important thing I've discovered is because every home life is different, but the more you can get on the same page with the partner as to here's what the kid's schedule is, the more
Mhm.
you can take advantage of there's my strengths, but there's his strengths. That really does help. And if you can figure out, who does the story hour, who
Yeah.
does the hitting the baseball outside. Everybody takes a part in, but if you can figure out how to divvy it up, it really makes a difference.
That's so true. So I was reading through your background. Do you specialize in a certain age group or just children in general and families? I mean, what is that's my first question. My second question is, what is the most difficult age that you find in kids?
Well, first of all, I started with very young children. So I started with teaching special needs kids, and they were maybe 4 through 7. What
Yeah.
I then did along the way is I kept stretching myself because the superintendent or the principal or whatever, they were the ones, I was in a school site. They would stretch me to say, but we need you teaching older kids or older kids. What I began to find out is there wasn't a set age that I was working with. It was just wherever the need was. Children have the same needs no matter what it is. They need to be seen and heard and appreciated. So it was just scaffolding my techniques to them. Now, what I do is the majority of the time I'm working with adults, parents, the teachers. When I'm doing talks, yes, I talk to the students a lot,
Yeah.
but I just got down yesterday. I was in speaking at Philip Exeter, one of the highest levels of excellent schools in the country. And that was in Boston to those parents. The day before was Chicago to those parents. So it's always finding out before you open up your mouth, what do they need?
Hmm.
What are the concerns? I do like a half an hour conference call with them ahead of time before I fly out. And
Yeah.
I really am able to zero in on, so we're on the same page. That's tremendously helpful. And then you don't waste time.
I love that. I love that. So, a couple of questions, and I get a lot I asked a lot of people. We sent out a survey to say, what do you want to hear from Dr. Borba? And there was a couple that came in and that I thought that were really interesting. And they said, my teenager does not want to talk to me, and we've all heard that, been there.
Yeah.
Uh, any ideas for them?
Yes. Number one is find the time. If there was a, 24-hour day, is there a lull of 5 minutes where you could talk? What I find with teens is that they're more likely to talk, and they have told me this. First of all, when we're calm, the last thing they're going to do is if we're reacting to them, is it calm? Number two is they're actually, says research, more likely to talk if they're side by side instead of face to face with you. Is there an advantage when you are, boys say, doing something with me as opposed to just having this calm, all right, let's talk about the world. So we're shooting baskets together, or with little guys, we're playing Legos together, we're baking cookies together. What do they like to do? Find those moments. And it
Hmm.
could be nothing more than 2 minutes, and then you stretch them. That said, let me give you another one, Angela,
Yeah.
because parents have given me some fabulous advice of a mom who really was struggling with her teen daughter. That was just a break of they just couldn't talk. And she said, I need to be able to get the communication going. So she said, I bought something profound that really helped. I said, what? She said it was a really just lightweight journal. And I would write a couple of sentences and put it under her pillow and ask her, when you have a moment, write a couple of sentences me and put it back under my pillow. She said the most amazing thing happened. I kept doing it over and over again. The conversation on the journal kept getting bigger and bigger until all of
I
a sudden she opened
absolutely
up.
love that.
Yeah,
I've never
see,
heard that. And I absolutely love that. And I would say probably more girls do that than boys.
well,
No,
girls,
yeah.
let me go one step more because I think what's struggling now is that we've got a lot of kids who are extremely anxious. And when anxiety goes,
Oh,
focusing abilities go down
yeah.
and conversation's going to go down. So the other thing a dad did is, I guess my point to you is don't ever give up on a child. He said, we were really struggling. My son was 13 at the time and there was no communication, but I refused to give up. I'll start getting weepy on this one. So every day I write a post-it to him, just a note, and leave it on his pillow. He never said anything about them, but I just kept putting him on his pillow. And then the next day they weren't there. Well, a couple of weeks later, months later, I was trying to find my shoes, couldn't figure out where they were. And I said, ah, you kid must have borrowed them. He wasn't around. So I went into his bed, looked for the shoes, couldn't find them, looked under his bed. There's an old box. And I started to get so nervous as to what could possibly be in this box. I pulled it out and it was every post-it note. He'd saved every note. I didn't say anything when he came home. I just showed the box and he started to cry. He said, thanks, Dad. I really needed those notes. So there's ways to do it. We just have to be crafty and notice the secret about both the mom with the journal and the dad with the Post-its. They didn't give up. They kept doing it. It was a simple little routine, but they had to break through to the kid that goes, I'm still there for you.
I love that. And you've got me speechless. That was
Yeah.
that was so touching. You know, my mother always told me, she told me two things. She said, with children, we grow with them, you know,
Yes.
because I used to get sad. I was a single mom, so I would get sad when he would get to kindergarten.
Yes.
And she said, but be happy, grow with them. You don't want them back in diapers. I mean, grow with them. And
Yes.
she was so right. She was just so
Yes.
right. So and then she said one other thing is that she said this goes to my son. She said I talked to Drake in the car.
Yes.
When you said side by side, she said we were driving and that's when he opens up to me. And that was my mother. So that was the grandmother, you know, so
Well,
everybody's
I
important.
I will go one step more to that because that was advice I just gave to Chicago parents who said, I don't know how to talk to my child. I said, you're missing the moment when you can. They're locked in the car with you. Use the carpool as the moment because you can put a little subtle music that's quiet, but cell phones down.
I love
Now
it.
it's the moment we're talking.
I love it. I love it. And I want to, it's interesting. We had one woman that wrote in and she said something about the carpool issue. And I
Yeah.
want to tag on to that a little bit. So when
Yeah.
I was in my son, he's 24 now. He was, you know, diagnosed with ADHD in the fifth grade,
Yes.
but we would do carpool and he was
Yes.
pretty hyper. And so I'd have
Yes.
five kids in and they would get a little irritated when he was really hyper. And in those situations, I'll tell you what I did, but I'd love to know what, because she wanted to know, I do a carpool, and if one kid is being rambunctious, what do you do?
Well, the first thing is you have a rule before everybody gets in the car that you blame it on yourself. I really need to focus because I'm driving and I want to make sure you're safe. So let's all stay really safe. And if notice that somebody else is getting a little rambunctious, just give them a signal that goes like this because you can point to me and say, she really needs to be on the road looking. So I always flipped it, made it look like me, but I'd set the rule up and then I'd give kids a little bit of just make a signal. And then what almost always happened is the kids would comply with it. It's
Yeah.
amazing how they do.
You know what? I think you and I are twins because that is exactly what I would do. What I would do is if my son he was like, he wanted me to turn a certain way, and people were like, just let her turn a
Yeah.
certain way. And I said, you know what? I said, we've never gone down that way. Let's go down that way today and kind of divert
Yeah.
that where you make it
Yeah.
fun with
Yeah.
everybody.
Make it fun because the
Mhm.
other thing is you don't know what's happened to a child before they get into the carpool. Or afterwards, when you take them up from school, they're very rambunctious. And very often, it's the first time that they can sit down and just kind of de-stress. So
Exactly.
just take some moments and figure out where they are, and it'll help. And I think we just need to be crafty.
You know
That
what?
was the key to
Exactly.
it.
Another thing my son would do is he would jump. He would jump up and down
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one day I was at the counter and he was talking and I just started jumping up and down and he got
Yeah.
so tickled that
Yeah.
it made everything okay. It's awesome. So
Yeah.
well that is great. I want to talk to you a little bit about your books. You've got so many books, but you've got a new book and it's out. It's called Thrivers, right?
Mm.
And I don't even want to tell anyone what about. I want you to tell us what is it about because I want everyone to buy it.
Well, thank you. And it's everything that we've been talking about. What I've been doing is, my entire career is talking to kids and going around the world and seeing a very disturbing trend, and that is the kids are stressed more
Yeah.
and more and more. Well, it isn't just the US, it's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Is it?
So, what I did when I wrote this book was to say, okay, what's the science say? If I
Mhm.
looked at the best science on what creates a resilient bounce back kid who can handle it, what I did was look at the science, look at the research, and I realized that evidence says there's 7 traits that kids have that are all teachable. It's a rare kid that has all seven, so breathe and don't worry. But the first thing is each chapter has one of those strengths, like confidence is number one. You got to
Mhm.
figure out who your child is, not comparing him to the neighbor next door. What drives him? What are his talents? You want a happy kid? The highest correlation to happiness for adults is being in a flow state of knowing what your talent is and going that way. So the
Yeah.
first one is figuring out your child and who they are. The second
Yeah.
one is empathy. Social competence is hugely correlated with happiness.
Mhm.
Relationships. They did a study from Harvard where they've been studying from 1938 the individuals their entire life until they're, most of them have died at this point. But
Right.
who was the happiest? They all had Harvard degrees, but that did not make them be happy. Social
Right.
competence and feeling they belonged. So,
Yeah.
how do we connect belonging needs with kids? The third one is, you'll love it, self control. How do we refocus and help our kids be able to
Yeah.
handle the stress so they dim their stress down and give them coping strategies? Fourth is integrity. That's you inside your child's head. What do you stand for? So you stand for it together. The fifth one is, curiosity. We've been talking about that all day. You and I could get A pluses for that. But
Oh, yeah.
curiosity is thinking outside the box
Hmm.
so that your child doesn't use you and think he needs to be rescued and snowplowed and helicoptered.
Yeah.
It's a child who knows how to problem solve. And when a challenge comes up, he goes, okay, so what's my plan B going to be? And
Yeah.
we can teach that to a child. Then comes perseverance, the child who doesn't give up, until finally the last one is optimism, a child who has hope. Oh, heavens, a
Mhm.
hopeful attitude. By the way, all of them are teachable. You can start when they're two. And if
Oh,
you're worried
yeah.
about your partner, it's not too late for us either. But resilience is teachable. Thrivers are made, not born. And that's what the book is all about. Each chapter is age by age. In fact, here's the book. It's like,
So yeah, she's got
it's
thrivers. She's got another one too. She got many. Okay.
this one's in audio, digital form, if you like Kindle, hardback or paperback. But in fact, many parents are using it as a book club read aloud. So they get
And
together with other parents and say, are you on page 33?
oh, I love. And where can everyone find that book, by the way?
Just about anywhere. Amazon
Okay.
for sure, Barnes and Noble, any
Hmm.
place that you'd like. But that's what it is. The best compliment I ever got was a group of high school kids who were reading it as a book club, Zoom to me, and their first question is, "Why did you write this for adults? You should have written this for kids. We need this stuff." I went,
Oh,
"Oh
that
my gosh, how cool is
is
that?"
so interesting. You know, out of all of those, there was many I could talk about, but out of all of those, when you said confidence, there
Yes,
that is so it's
yes.
not even we don't even talk about that much in today's world. And I'll take just a quick moment to share with you when I was younger, and this just shows you the mind of a child. So
Yes.
I had a couple of surgeries before I was 5 years old, and I'm 57. So back then, when they would take a child to surgery, they would take the child from the parent, and I would be
Oh, that was
screaming bloody
so
murder.
horrible.
And I remember the steel doors that they would take me through,
Yeah,
and I thought I would never see my parents again ever.
yeah.
And so moving forward, I had this happen several times. My mother took me to a psychiatrist to see, and I'm normal, all right. But anyway, she took me out there, and they said, "How does she sleep?" And she said, "She sleeps like great." And he said, "She needs confidence. She needs confidence."
Yeah,
And my mother got me into gymnastics, and I was a
yeah.
gymnast my whole life, and that did it. That did it for me. But here's the interesting thing, and this is how a child's brain is so interesting to me. So I did not tell my parents until college what happened. I thought that when I got on the school bus and I went to
Oh,
school, I saw the woman in white, the nurse.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
terrified. I thought they would, I never told my parents this ever. And so, but that just shows you. But boy, they were spot on when the doctor said she needs more confidence and you've got to find a way to get it to her.
Yeah.
So we'll let that be a lesson, what gymnastics, whatever, figure out what can help them in confidence. So you hit it on the head. So,
Well, thank you for that. But because I think once again, we are in total agreement on this one. The biggest thing that I think we do wrong, oh, here comes Guilt 101, is when I was researching this, 77% of the time, parents focus on their kids' weakness. What are they not doing well in? Now, that doesn't mean that we don't love our kids, but we're so worried about they're not doing well in the math or they're not doing well in the science. Okay, I'm not saying stop helping them if they're
You're right.
struggling, but
Hmm.
for heaven's sakes, find what drives their passion. Where are they eager? Where is there a need when they're doing it's time for art? When does their voice tone go up? You can even do the simplest thing, take a 3x5 card. Don't let your kid know you're doing this, but watch your child a little closer and see when they're learn easier, when they seem to enjoy what it is, when they're asking for it. Gymnastics is wonderful. It could be swimming. For Michael Phelps had ADHD as a kid.
That's right.
His
Exactly.
mother put him in a swimming pool and the whole stress level went down. What does his coach do, by the way? Brilliant coach. He doesn't say, go get the Olympic medal. He every day he takes, yesterday you swam this number of yards.
Hmm.
Today let's go for one step more, one step more, one step more. The research also says if we praise the child's effort and not their end product, what you get, but just go, yesterday you were here, today you're here, you stretch their confidence. So
I love
many
that.
simple little things that research is telling us that we're overlooking that can just help our children the rest of their lives. And by the way, sure, you were in gym, and me, it was getting invested in a reading in a book. I just love to read. I
Mm.
talked to Natalie from Dalton, and she said, I listened to Mozart. I said, I
Mm.
wasn't prepared for you at age 14 to tell me you're listening to Mozart. She said, my mom's really crafty. She plays all different kinds of music over the loudspeaker system. And every time Mozart comes on, my whole body just decompresses. I feel better about who I am. So I
Wow.
loaded my iPad up with Mozart. So maybe the takeaway here is let's watch our kids and figure out what drives them,
Hmm.
who they are, not what we want them to be. That's what's going to create the happiness and the success and the confidence.
Absolutely. So, it's interesting. I could, like I said, I love your answers. Music, it's so
Music.
healing. It can bring you
Yep.
up, it can bring you down. And, I've had a couple of people, especially women, that said, I think they love like the music from Wicked, and this
Yes.
is like years ago. So not just like when it came out or
Yes.
anything like that.
Yes.
They said, I play that in the morning, and it's what we listen to every morning. And I wish I'd done that. But boy, of course. But is that a good idea? Like,
Sure, if it drives your child. Here's the thing. The answer to that is, I don't know. What you've got to do is watch your child. Because what you're looking for instance, some parents will go, his favorite hobby is gaming. And I'm going, and then they'll ask me, do you think that's good? I said, have you watched your child when he's playing it? Do you see that as he's playing it, all of a sudden his stress level goes down and it's a healthy alternative? And every dad goes, no. I said, well, then replace it with something else. If you watch your child, you'll see whether it
yeah,
calms them. And
yeah.
that's what you look at. And then keep doing it, because after a while, he'll or she will be able to take that with them the rest of their life.
You're exactly right. Talk to us a little bit about gaming, because we can't ignore it, right? It's out there, and especially boys. They game and they're on social media all the time. It's kind of gotten out of control a little bit, in
Yeah,
my opinion. What do you do if you've got kids that are on their gaming, all the time, all through the
yeah.
night? Any suggestions?
Yeah, number one, you pay the electric bill. So what you do is, first of all, realize it. And here's a mom who's just absolutely freaking brilliant. She said, I didn't know what to do. I said, so what did you do? She said, well, I finally figured out where I could turn off the electricity and the internet. And I turned it off at a certain time every night, and there was peace. There was no more arguments because the kids didn't know that I was doing that. So
You know
that's
what?
that's the extreme alternative.
No,
The other
no,
one
we
is,
did
yeah,
that.
yeah.
We did.
Well, there you go.
No, my husband did it. I didn't know he did it, and I just have to share this. So it's like 2 a.m. and my son comes, like in high school, comes running through the hallway, and he goes, wake up. He goes, I have checked all of the outlet out, who's out in the neighborhood, and everybody's got power, but we don't have any power. And my husband just woke up and he goes, oh, that's your new alarm that like goes off when it's the time to stop doing that. And it was stunned, and it was perfect. So
Okay,
I
I got to add on to that. Not only is it brilliant, but here's another thing that you need to keep in mind.
yeah.
You notice that your child was up at 2 a.m. telling you that about the cell phone. or the gaming. One of the things we're discovering about this generation, yeah, we call them anxious and we always want to blame. They're also the most sleepless
They
because they're
are.
bringing their cell phone with them to sleep at night. And what you don't
It's
realize is
terrible.
that they're keep using it all night. And there goes every bit of their power in terms of being able to focus and stay focused. Their cognitive abilities go. And so the answer to that one is, once again, tomorrow we're going to the store and buying you something profound called an alarm clock. If we keep if we don't substitute, what we do is our kids will be addicted to it, which they are
They are.
already. By the
Yeah.
way, girls are just trembling in terms of uh, obsession with it because they're comparing themselves to others. So
And
their
their
depression
self-image.
rates are even higher.
Hmm.
So what you
Yeah.
need to do is the bottom of this is Common Sense Media is your go-to staple for a website. It'll tell you what any game is it appropriate or not appropriate. The second thing is you as a family sit down and say, where's our unplugged times?
Yeah. What was
Where
that
are
called
our
again that you
unplugged
just
times?
mentioned?
Common Sense Media. It's a gold standard staple for any parent. Any any movie, any game, anything that is any video, you can go on and say, "My kid is 13. Is this appropriate?" And it'll tell you
I love
whether it
that.
is or not. It's just wonderful. That's perfect. But the other thing is, do sit down and make sure that you have unplugged times. 66% of kids say, by the way, that we, the grown-ups, are the ones that are too plugged in, not them, because we
You should,
continue
you,
to use
mm,
it and they're not. I would say dinner hour, the
dinner.
family room, and for heaven's sake, sleep. You're
Yeah.
unplugged. You also do not need it when you're doing your homework unless you have to connect with your friend,
Yeah.
because we now know homework used to be 2 hours, it's now up to 4 to 5. And kids are
Wow.
saying, I just can't get my homework done.
Wow.
I'm interviewing kids who are saying they're up until like midnight and 2 a.m. every night. How does that help when you have to get up at 6 a.m. the next day for school? You're
Oh yeah.
just really in a sleepless mode. So the lesson here is don't overlook the simple stuff.
And yeah, and dinner time is sacred, isn't it? It's
Sacred
just
time.
you can't get that back, right? It's so, I mean,
Yeah.
you could get it in the future, but while they're home, it's sacred to me.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
okay, I got two last questions and I could talk
yeah.
to you all day long. But one question that came in from one of the parents was said, I can't get my son to read. I just can't get him to read. Boys aren't big at reading like girls are. Any suggestions on that? And I said, I know
Yeah.
they find something they're interested in. And she said she tried that, but she wanted me to ask you.
I think the first thing is I'm going to go through, flip it. And because all you're trying to do at this point is getting to step into the enjoyment of a book. And I find that a lot of boys told me the way they got in, they're no longer doing it, but the way they got into it was comic books. So they were set up that they were easier. They
Mhm.
still had words on them. There are a lot of really good novels or YA books that are set up like comics. Your best resource in the entire world. Fall in love with the children's librarian. Say, here's the age of my child. Here's his reading level that the teacher has told me. He may be 9, but his reading level may be 7 years. Find out what his reading level is. Do you have something that's really like a few things to choose from? And very often she'll give you those suggestions. So flip it a little bit and make sure
I
it's short and easy.
I could talk to you for hours upon hours upon hours. Okay, I got one last question for you. So
Yeah,
we talked about music and we said music
yeah,
is healing. It can bring you up, it can bring you down,
yeah,
it can bring you focus. But out of 140 episodes, I've only had one that's been the same. But for you, let's say it's on one of those days you're not focused and you've got to go present, but you're not
yeah.
there. You get in your car. What is the name or the song or the artist or the genre that you listen to that gives you game on?
Elton John, I'm Still Standing. I crack it up and it does changes my whole demeanor. I have to start singing with it and I'm going by the time I'm there and walk out the door, I got it.
I love it.
Music can really take you up a notch or it can calm you. We just have to find what works for us and for our kids.
I love that. I thank you so much. I just got to have you back. I just love your
Oh,
energy.
thank you.
Get her book. She's got her book Thrivers. She's got Unselfie. She's got goodness, how many books now? 28 or more.
28. Well,
Her name is Dr. Michele Borba. We're going to put a link on there. But Michelle, thank you so much
oh,
for
thank you.
joining us today. I'm so blessed to have you on this podcast because people are going to learn something from something or an example. And again, I just thank you for your time.